So if you remember when I was at the Young Turks, obviously I covered the St. Louis protests. There were protests in St. Louis for over a month. Another black man was murdered by police on tape. The police officer was recorded saying, "I'm going to kill this motherfucker, you watch." And then he killed him. But while I was in St. Louis, I took a detour and I covered a nuclear waste site. There is a nuclear waste site right kind of like outside of St. Louis, but St. Louis area. That is from the Manhattan Project days. It's got uranium underground. And right near that nuclear waste site is an underground methane fire. An underground methane fire. So I went there when I was at the Young Turks. I actually put on the mask the wrong way from what I remember, but I had a mask on. I went to the nuclear waste site. I mean, the smell from that could literally, if I stood out there for another hour, bad things were going to happen. Ty, my cameraman, was like, "Let's get the fuck out of here." Much love to Ty. So you got a nuclear waste site. The EPA has not even really measured how close the nuclear waste site is to a methane fire. And yes, HBO did a documentary on it. It was a good documentary. So literally, you got this, literally, if these two collide, this nuclear waste site and a chemical fire underground, you could have a mini nuclear explosion because this is nuclear waste from the Manhattan Project days. It's not a joke. So many people don't know this because the corporate media doesn't cover these things, but Bill Gates, that bastion of Microsoft, and Bill Gates, he gives all his money to charity and he does such great things. Well, behind every, wonderful philanthropist is a little bit of corruption. Well, Bill Gates owned the company. Bill Gates owns the company that could clean up this site. So here's an editorial that was in the St. Louis Dispatch. Bill Gates, help clean up your toxic St. Louis dump. Can't say it any better. Bill Gates continues his extraordinary legacy of philanthropy, recently committing $50 million to fight against Alzheimer's. Through his personal giving and his foundations, Gates has had a major impact on challenging global issues, but his help is needed now in the middle of the American heartland here in St. Louis. Gates owns a large stake in the waste management company Republic Services. By the way, Republic Services has, like Energy Transfer Partners for the Dakota Access Pipeline and other toxic pipelines it has, they put out all this lovely, lovely public relations about how responsible they are and how the nuclear waste site is helping the community, jobs, and all that. They kind of leave out the fact that it's probably going to kill people. So, Gates owns a large stake in the waste management company Republic Services. In a July 2017 SEC filing, Gates was reported to own 108,502,519 shares of this company, worth some $6.9 billion, representing more than 30% of all Republic shares and making him the largest single shareholder in the company. He has owned much of this stock for some time, holding at least 90 million shares since 2014. Over the past 3 years, the stock price has approximately doubled, giving him a gain of more than $3 billion. Here's the problem. Republic Services owns 2 landfills in Bridgeton, a working-class suburb of St. Louis. It's bad enough that a smoldering subsurface fire burns in one, the Bridgeton landfill, regularly producing noxious odors that waft across adjacent neighborhoods. Their bigger deal is that the landfill sits next to another, the Westlake landfill, the subject of a recent documentary, Atomic Homefront, on HBO. This landfill holds a large amount of radioactive material dating back to the Manhattan Project. Much of the material is alleged to be low-level radioactive material, whatever the hell that means, low-level. Yeah, you want some low-level radioactive material? But evidence exists that a significant amount of more dangerous waste is mixed in, including highly toxic radionuclides such as thorium-230, uranium-235, and lead-210. Radioactive materials has been found nearby in people's yards and even inside homes. Cancer clusters in the area appear to be occurring with higher rates of rare cancers such as glioblastoma in children. Of grave concern is what will occur if and when the fire hits the radioactive material, a looming potential disaster that could threaten the health of people living in the St. Louis metro area with a population of more than 2 million. This concern is significant enough to have prompted St. Louis County in 2014 to publish an emergency operation plan in the event of a catastrophic event at the landfill. Grassroots groups such as Just Mom St. Louis and local environmental organizations have been pushing the Environmental Protection Agency to pursue the only plausible and acceptable solution, which is to remove the radioactive waste. Unfortunately, Republic Services, remember, Republic Services, which Bill Gates owns 30%, doesn't like this solution, as it would likely be on the hook for a significant share of the cost of remediation. Because of this, it has been stalling, putting up roadblocks to action and waging a disinformation campaign to deceive the public using a shill organization, Coalition to Keep Us Safe, posing as a grassroots organization to spread false information. By the way, this, like I said, this is what happened. Energy Transfer Partners did this for the Dakota Active Pipeline. They've done it for other projects. You have company after company after company that owns nuclear waste sites or toxic landfills or pipelines or whatever. They put out public relations, which is basically lies and disinformation. And how do I know this? Because I was on the ground in that town that's in a St. Louis suburb. I sat in the living room of two mothers who have been fighting this for a decade. I went to one of the landfills, and the smell, I don't know how people live there. I really don't know how people live there. The smell was so toxic and so dangerous. Like that article I read, there has been dangerous cancers, rare types of cancers, have been in children. In children. They literally, the mothers I interviewed, and it's up on TYT Politics, the mothers I interviewed literally have to send their children out to play with masks on. Also, Bill Gates can make some money. And let's not pretend, Bill Gates is a smart dude. You know, my older brother who works in finance says, when I criticize Warren Buffett is literally the largest shareholder in the Dakota Access Pipeline. When I criticize Bill Gates, who has a 30% share in this, my brother says, Jordan, do you know how many companies Warren Buffett has shares in? He probably doesn't even know Dakota Access Pipeline. Bill Gates probably doesn't even know. No, they know. Do you think he doesn't know a company that's making him $6.9 billion? You think his people don't know? You think they don't know about the activism and Just Mom St. Louis that have been fighting to get this nuclear waste removed from their city? And by the way, I think it's wonderful that Warren Buffett has given almost all, I believe it is, his earnings to charity. I think it's wonderful that Bill Gates has given so much to charity. They deserve credit for that. That does not absolve them if they are funding nuclear waste sites that are very, very close to an underground chemical methane fire that is giving children cancer, that is making mothers and fathers have to send their children out to play in the yard with masks. You want to talk about our democracy under a threat from Russia? Our children are under threat from plutocrats. I mean, I went to the landfill. I went to one of the landfills when I was at TYT. I was with my former cameraman, Ty. I had a mask on. Even the mask didn't cover up that stench. I was out there for probably 20 minutes to a half hour reporting, and I couldn't take it anymore.